He said he might have heard him.
The Board of Supervisors regular meeting will come to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Y'all remain standing. We have Pastor James Richwine from Burry's Church here to do our invocation.
Thank you for the invitation. Let's pray together, please. Father God, Heavenly Father, we come before you today. Come before you as a public board, asking that you would guide us and give us wisdom in this meeting. We ask that your Holy Spirit would be present amongst us, guiding our decisions, all for the common good. Help us set aside any religious differences, political differences, any kinds of differences that would interfere with our work together, that we might work together in unity, ensuring that our efforts will reflect your will for the common good of all the people. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
You're welcome.
Security cameras were installed in the meeting room. Visual recordings to be used for security purposes only. Members of the public should be recording the meeting. That takes us down to number 4, police swearing-in ceremony. Nathan Kuhnfair. I, Nathan Kuhnfair,
I, Nathan Kuhnfair,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and the ordinances and regulations of New Sewickley Township.
and the ordinances and regulations of Sewickley Township.
I also swear that I will uphold,
I also swear that I will uphold,
obey, and enforce
obey, and enforce
the law without consideration
the law without consideration
to a person's race, color, sex,
to a person's race, color, sex,
religious creed,
religious creeds,
sexual orientation,
sexual orientation,
age,
age,
national origin,
national origin,
ancestry,
ancestry,
handicap,
handicap,
or disability.
or disability.
I will perform the duties as a police officer in the Township of New Sewickley,
I will perform my duties as a police officer in the Township of New Sewickley,
and with fidelity and honor
and with fidelity and honor,
to the best of my abilities,
to the best of my abilities.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome aboard.
So we're gonna have Township resident Dan Plunkett pin Officer Kuhnfair's badge on him.
Thank you, sir.
Sure, absolutely. You wanna stand back here?
Dear Officer Kuhnfair, my name is Daniel Plunkett, and I'm proud to be a part of your pinning ceremony this evening. As a member of the community in which you will serve and protect, I am excited for you to begin your professional journey. This badge is a strong reminder of the courage, professionalism, and integrity that has preceded you in the New Sewickley Township Police Department. And it is symbolic of the trust and honor that we have for you. It is to be worn with pride, but not arrogance. It's to be worn with courage, but not intrepidation. And it is to be borne with compassion, but not indifference. I too am a member of a PIN brotherhood and sisterhood, having worn the dolphins of a qualified submarine sailor. I can tell you that the pride you feel today will last your lifetime, and the camaraderie of your fellow officers will shape the rest of your life. Please accept my heartfelt congratulations and my utmost respect on this special day.
Thank you, sir.
You can sit down.
Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, sure. I just want to thank everyone here, the guys at the department and ladies, and everyone here in the community today. And I'm very proud for you all to accept me into your community, and I hope I can serve everyone greatly. Thank you.
Got myself a little out of order, so we're going to backtrack for a minute. I'd like to welcome the family of Patrolman Nathan Coonfair, who have joined us tonight. You have done a wonderful job molding Nathan into a great person who is endeavoring to become a great police officer. The badge pinning tradition that you just watched has significant meaning within our department. Patrolman Coonfair, our purpose as police officers in New Sewickley Township is to serve and protect our residents. The badge that was just pinned on your chest symbolizes the authority our residents bestow upon us, the trust our residents have in us, our enduring commitment to serve our community, the integrity each of our officers value, and the sacrifices that have been and will be made by our officers. Each time you put this badge on your uniform, remember what it stands for. Wear this badge with pride and honor as the rest of your family in the New Sewickley Township Police Department does. During your career, you will face many hard days filled with difficult decisions. I encourage you to trust in your training, your education, your life experience, and insight from your fellow officers when faced with these difficult decisions. The decisions you make throughout your career reflect not only on yourself, but also on all of us who wear the uniform. I trust that you will make the right decisions, even when no one is watching. As your career moves forward, it will be easy for you to develop a cynical view of society. You will often see people at their worst. You must remember that good people greatly outnumber those who have evil in their heart. You must also remember that no one calls you when things are going right in their lives. You are called upon when things have gone wrong and when people need help. You must maintain your compassion for people you encounter. Do not let this just be another call you answer. Always remember that this is one of the worst days of their life, and this call is the most important thing taking place in their life. People deserve your full attention, compassion, and understanding. Remember to always treat others as you would want to be treated. You first came to this department as the intern, almost a year ago. You have now earned your degree, but your education will never be completed. Throughout your career, you will learn something new every shift. Never stop learning, never stop training, and never stop improving yourself. You have great potential and a bright future ahead of you. During your career, you will see some of the worst things the world has to offer. It is imperative that you find a healthy way to deal with these things. We often do not talk about the things we see or the calls that bother us. Always remember that your fellow officers are here for you, and we, maybe more than anyone else, understand what you're dealing with. The last advice I will give you this evening is to always maintain a tactical advantage. Follow your gut feeling and pay attention when the hair on the back of your neck stands up. Something is not right, and you must identify and address the issue that is causing you to feel this way. The most important thing you must do is to go home safely at the end of each shift. Never forget the sacrifices that you have made to get to where you are today. I believe you will have a very successful career in our community, and we welcome you to our family.
Thank you, sir.
I wasn't done, there's 4 more pages.
Thank you.
I just want to say, I didn't read my agenda until I walked in and saw the plethora of policemen here. I thought, oh my God, what's happening? And I just calmed down, and now I'm excited for you, for the community, speaking for the board and the citizens. We really respect the police, and I know you're going to be a good fit here. So as a board and citizen, as a board member, I want to thank you for all of us and our solicitor and our representatives here that you'll be working with also.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm proud to have you here, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, back to our agenda. Any amendments to our agenda? Hearing none, we'll take item 6, minutes, December 3rd, 2024. Regular meeting, we'll take action on it.
I move to approve the December 3rd regular meeting minutes as submitted.
Second. Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Steve? Yes. Fritz?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes. Item number 7, bills. Bills paid from the general and stormwater funds, December 4th through the 30th, as submitted by the treasurer. We'll take action.
I move to approve the bills to be paid from the general and stormwater funds from December 4 to December 30, with the signing of the checks following this meeting.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Steve?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes. Great. Brings us to public comments. Limited to 3 minutes per person. Do you have any public comments? Garrett?
Patty Gerhardt, 304 Carriage Drive. Just curious, what is the PennDOT agility agreement?
We'll get to that.
Okay, well, I just thought it was nice to know what it is.
That's a agreement for mutual, not mutual work, but work that we can trade. Possibly. You know, if it works for the township or if it works for the, you know, the state, that we can maybe get some things done that the township needs done and the state. We just had a situation over the weekend, or over this last snowstorm, where our boys had to go out and maintain some roads that the state couldn't get to.
That's true, we heard about that.
Yeah, so, you know, that happens quite frequently, so we might be able to recoup some of that cost.
Super, okay, thank you.
But we'll get into that. Any other public comments?
Laura Dingle, 425 Klein Road. I was just wondering if the board could provide us with an update on the water line project. I noticed that it's nearing the end of the year and that project is exceeding its time frame.
I don't see anybody here from the municipal authority. I don't have a comment for the record, so maybe we'll get that after the first of the year whenever Larry's here. Any other comments? Okay, any comments on MS4? Brings us to administration. To approve the PennDOT agility agreement and resolution number 23-24, we'll take action on that.
I have a slew of questions.
Okay? Fire away.
So, reading through this document, they reference here on first page 2A, which is attachment B, and that lists all the services that are up for trade or that we could do for each other. So it's not clear what services are being provided by PennDOT or by the township in this agreement.
It's a two-part agreement, the way I understand it. This agreement just enters into an agreement with PennDOT. The second part of it would answer your questions, is it has to be mutually agreed upon by both. In a separate meeting, separate agreement.
Well, it clearly says attachment B is what you're signing up for, and it has a section for other, if something isn't listed. So I'm not tracking how this is a two-part, or if it doesn't even reference a two-part on here.
We haven't agreed to do any services yet.
So the other area of concern that I have is for all of the specs that we need to be in compliance with. And that's on page 3, item 2. You know, they list several publications, 408, 213, 212, 113. Who's going to go through these specifications and identify what's applicable to the work that we're doing and ensure that our guys are trained up on doing that work to that standard?
I would think our engineers would be part of that, and our attorney. ones applicable.
Yeah, just for in practice, you know, what's being considered, and I know we had this conversation earlier, if it's primarily, like landscape maintenance or just like grass cutting on berms, then most of those specifications are not gonna apply, but if there's a greater exchange of services, then it would probably be the engineer who would be guiding whatever, you know, work needs to be done to meet the specifications. And then with regard to the other documents that's referenced, like, there's some form Commonwealth agreements in there that are not like, specifications, but they're saying you're agreeing to like other things, like for instance, their discrimination policy and things like that. The township has to be in compliance with those for any sort of like cooperation with the state or like the receipt of any grant funds or anything like that, so, normally they're not asking anything that you guys aren't already doing. And those, Commonwealth, like, form things that you have to agree to, are the same for, like, the, Community Economic and Development Agency and things like that, like all of the agencies, Commonwealth agencies use the same forms for those.
So something as simple as like setting up a work zone, there's going to be different requirements for a state rather than our local roads. The distances, the cone spacing, like all that stuff is gonna be included in these specs. So our engineer, we're gonna have to pay the engineer to go through here.
Depends on what we're trading, depends on what we're getting into. We don't know.
Yeah, for work zone setups, you guys likely are already in compliance with those. Those are kind of like industry standard specifications that if you're setting up like traffic aversions or things like that, you need to be in compliance with usually. So like our guys might already know what
Yeah,
that
they
is.
might not. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of them are based on the speed limit,
Mhm.
right? So,
Without getting too far into the weeds here, this is the state's agreement that they require to put the two together. You're not agreeing that you're gonna absolutely must do things that they want.
yeah,
If it doesn't work for us, we don't do it.
yeah. It's so open-ended.
But we ask that question. And if you don't sign that agreement, you don't get to Plan B. You don't get to the second part of the agreement where you can actually do work. So we're gonna be dealing with the local, this is the state form that they use across the state, prepared by their attorneys. If you change this agreement, you don't get it. They just won't accept it. Or you'll be 6 months down the road trying to fight for it. So we're trying to recoup some of the money that we've already put out, doing state work in mowing, in salting, and stuff our road crew's already doing. And this is just a way that we're gonna try to recoup some of that money.
So on the next document, there'll be details on that of how much we get reimbursed for
That's the way we
mowing,
understand, yes.
for cleaning the ditch, for whatever. And also there'll be requirements or listed in there, if they're gonna paint lines on the roads, how many roads they're gonna paint lines on.
Yes.
Exactly right.
If you want me to intervene, when we had our meeting with PennDOT, it comes down to, like, we used the example of, last year, I had a quote from parking lot paint, what it would cost us to paint our roadways. It was almost $30,000, very expensive. PennDOT owns a paint shop, they have employees to do that. So if we would have them say, hey, we have 5 roads with 3.2 miles of roadway that need painted, what would you charge us to paint that in exchange for services? They're not gonna pay you, or we're not gonna pay them, there's no cash, it's all service for service. So if we would mow intersections, which we kinda do now, they'll weigh out the cost of that, what it would cost them to do it. They subcontract that out to a mowing company, so what are they paying for per mile? We have to determine, is it an even trade at that point? If it costs $20,000 for them to paint the roads, they're gonna want $20,000 in grass cutting at that point. And we gotta designate what work. It isn't kinda saying, they don't wanna get into the agreements of, well, the township lost on this deal, because kinda what I'm dealing with an attitude already is, we're gonna do more for what the PennDOT's gonna do. Well, before you do anything, you're gonna weigh it out. It's gonna cost $20,000 for the paint, and it's gonna cost $20,000 to mow these streets. If you wanna mow the streets, and we'll paint these things, if you can mow them at a cheaper rate, then that's what you're gonna agree upon as your agreement to move forward with it. If you disagree with it, you don't have to do it. But you still always have a plan that you can go into agreements with it. As you had a snowstorm over the weekend, they're not gonna let you, they're not gonna get into an agreement of, oh, well, this weekend we plowed your roads because it snowed. No, they're not gonna do that. Either you plow them all the time or never. They're not gonna get into, well, we just need it because you weren't here. They're not gonna sign that agreement. I can tell you that right now. That's what they got out of that meeting. It's very documented. You're gonna do this and we're gonna do this. And all parties are gonna agree to that. It's not a fly by the seat of your pants agreement. It's gonna be, but you have to have this, that you're willing to sit down and talk about what services or what services.
I mean, if you read this document, it outlines the
I'll tell you what
services.
everything they do, but
And it looks like you're agreeing to that. You're making an agreement, and then you have another agreement, so it just makes me
do.
leery of
because
what-
now you can say, okay, this is what they all offer. These are everything they offer. If there's something of your interest in here that they could do for you, that you can do for them, they'll sit down at the table and talk dollars at that point. They're not gonna pay you money, they'll pay you service. That's what it's all about. Because the people down in East Rochester, they're not gonna take a check. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is too big for that, but,
So what else are we interested in PennDOT doing? Painting?
there's a whole list of here that you can do, so if we're
Right.
having an issue, then we can negotiate out, what can we do?
But I
for
mean,
you?
some of it's, I mean, a lot of it's their responsibility, so if it's their responsibility in the first place, you know, like plowing a road,
Correct.
they're on the hook for plowing the road.
But a lot of times they don't do it. I mean, we end up doing it.
Well, that's
You
a
gotta-
separate thing.
It's a separate thing, that's a separate
thing,
problem.
right.
If you wanna, like you're saying, we had to plow Unionville Hill on the weekend, it's not one time.
No.
You're gonna do it all winter long.
Well, it's the same with the mowing
Kinda like-
intersections.
9th Street Extension and Harvey Run Road. Freedom Borough goes into an agreement with them to salt and plow that. It's their responsibility. When I was a policeman, Harvey Run Road would have ice build up by School Street. You would call PennDOT, PennDOT would say, not our problem. It's our road. Freedom Borough is contracted to do that, so you'd have to call Freedom Borough out. to
So,
salt our roads.
what is the next document?
So the next
called?
document would be, what's it called? It would be the actual agreement. What service for services is it gonna be? Is it gonna be line painting for grass cutting, or is it gonna be line painting for pothole fixing on Big Knob Road? Is it gonna be, they're gonna do grass cutting for us for slide control on 989? I mean, those are projects that's beyond us, but that's an example of that.
And each of those would have its own resolution?
All
or-
resolution, own agreement, cost agreement,
Yeah.
yep. And the board would have to vote, that
We
you
get to decide whether we want to do it or not.
Okay.
gotta get the,
It's just, you
gotta
can't do
get
anything
phase
without
one
having
done to go into
disagreement
D first.
Steve, to allay your fears, I had the same fear when I came in tonight. I said, what is this? I was not a fan of this, and when I was signing checks, I heard Alexis saying, there's been times where we've done work, we've complained about some of the berms, and they haven't done them, so our guys go and do them. We could say to them, you know, we did X and Y, we plowed that road, we have money, that our cost per salt, for this, for that, we help people.
Well, they say in here they're not responsible for material.
Well, I'm just throwing, I don't know.
I mean, I'm just saying.
You know, that's built in with the cost.
built it
I
in
asked
with
the
your
guy
cost.
that, and he said, when we put our costs out there, we include that in the cost. So if we're gonna plow a road for them, we include the cost of the labor, the
You
trucks.
could estimate
salt,
what you're gonna
whatever.
spend on road maintenance on there.
Total,
Yeah.
total deal.
I think
So we have
this,
to drive your truck.
Right.
So it's all,
Right.
it's all part of it.
Right.
For us going into an agreement for them to, for us to plow their roads, I would suggest you never do that.
No.
We can't afford it, we don't have the manpower for it, and we don't have the equipment for it. So that, like people were saying,
But they
we have
could come
solar.
and plow your roads.
They could
Is
come
the
plow our
thing,
roads.
is that if they're already out plowing, they could plow your roads and then bank that for a service exchange, like that cost or whatever for that service, they bank it and then they can use it towards you guys doing a service for them.
That's actually the biggest point they brought up, is right now, they won't touch us, because there's no agreement.
Yeah,
I mean, it's off the table, no matter what. where we go and do theirs, they won't come near us. So this opens that door to cooperation with our district.
Okay, so let me just circle back here, because I thought I understood it and then you confused me.
Okay, sorry.
So this agreement is first, okay? And then after that, you have to go and set up specific agreements, like for snow plowing.
And if that
And then that would
agreement
be
is in
set up.
place- Yeah, and if that's in
Then
place.
they could go and bank it or whatever, right?
Yeah,
So
if
it's
you
each
authorized
item.
it.
You can't
Okay.
bank it. You have to have it in your agreement that you're gonna do this for that. They're not gonna
Yeah,
say.
but
"Here's
those
your
roads
use."
are gonna be authorized, though, that's the
Correct.
thing, is if they're out and they see an
Okay.
authorized road that needs plowed, they're gonna go plow it.
Okay, all right. So
It's not just gonna be willy-nilly like any road.
Yeah, okay, all right. I understand.
It's just quid pro quo, but
And
the
it's
way I
only-
understand it, we're just sitting down. This is to open the door.
Right.
We're not open, this is where we negotiate. Am I correct, Mrs. Whistler?
Yeah, this is kind of the initial step of saying we're interested in doing a service for service, and then PennDOT puts it through their like red tape or whatever, like handing it off to all their different people to say, New Sewickley Township is interested in doing a service for service, are we interested in doing service for service for New Sewickley Township? So this is just kind of like saying, you know, we're
Basically,
willing to do it, and then the
This
finality
is just talking. this allows us to sit down in a room and discuss what we're interested, what we're not interested. There's no committal here. This
Right,
is-
there's no action that can be taken just from this
No.
document.
The
No.
only action is that we're willing to talk.
Yeah, exactly, it's just saying we're
Exactly.
interested, and then PennDOT is also gonna have to sign the same agreement saying we're also interested, so they have to send it up their pool. I mean, they could theoretically send it back to you guys and say we're not interested,
They
and then
can't
it's like
ride
a non-issue.
roughshod over us and say,
So this document will go to
We have to-
Harrisburg.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you now I'm on the same page, I
Yeah.
understand.
For me to talk to East Rochester to say, hey, what can we exchange? They can't even talk to us unless we have this document with Harrisburg stating we are in agreement to do something. And then East Rochester will start talking to us. But until Harrisburg's know that they get the okay from Harrisburg that we have an agreement that we're allowed to do that, they're allowed to do that, then we'll move on to what do we really want to do.
And it's only 5 years.
5 years.
5
And
years.
it can be terminated upon 30 days' notice by either party
There you
for
go.
any reason at all. You
Yeah.
could just say, this is not working for us anymore, this is not beneficial for the
Right.
township, so here's a 30 days' notice, and then that's it.
Or if you can never get a project together that you both agree upon, then
That's also true.
you never do it.
Yeah.
It's very low risk in the scope of what's being considered.
But the point is, nothing happens unless we get this to Harrisburg.
You can't even sit down and talk to them, get a number.
They won't even come paying attention.
Okay.
Good?
Yep.
All right, that's it. Need a motion.
I move to approve the PennDOT Agility Agreement and Resolutions 23-24.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any additional questions or comments? Roll call.
Steve,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Mark.
Yes. Takes us to item B. Executive session under 65 PACS 708A 3, 4, following January 6th meeting, and that's for information only. What that is a roundabout way of saying is we're gonna put two boards together to discuss the small flow treatment plant on Meadowcrest,
Mhm.
just to see the feasibility of it.
Yeah, which involves the potential acquisition of real estate and, legal discussions with your solicitor about, potential liability or litigation.
So to bring both boards together and see if we can come to some type of understanding.
Correct.
May I ask one question? Just on the terminology of a small flow treatment facility. It's a component 3, which is not a 3S. So 100,000, a small flow is less than 2,000 gallons per day. 100,000 gallons is not a small flow treatment facility, in my interpretation of what's being proposed at the site.
That's item C. Is that something else? That's a different item, not the same. Right now, we're just talking about item B, which is not a small flow treatment.
Oh, wait, I misheard you then. I'm sorry. I thought you said small
Maybe I
flow.
read it. I don't know. That's a different thing. Anyway, it just, that's what the, item B is an executive session after the meeting on January 6th for the municipal planning and for the Board of Supervisors with our attorneys to discuss the feasibility of that plant for Meadowcrest. Whether the township wants to, or whether the municipal planning code, or municipal planning, whether the municipal authority wants to take over that plant, the packing plant for Meadowcrest. So we're just talking, it's for information and discussion only between the two boards and their attorneys. So, for lack of a better way to do it, we're gonna have an executive session, and there may be a public meeting after that. We need to get some type of,
Ball rolling.
yeah.
So,
Because nobody's really talked about it.
so the Board of Supervisors meeting is Monday, January 6th,
Next Monday.
and that's at 6:30, and the municipal authority meeting is at 6:30.
Yeah, they'll be here, that's why we decided to do it, it'll be the same time. They'll have their meeting in this next room, and we'll have our meeting here, or vice versa. Both boards will be here. So after both meetings, we're gonna have both boards get together in the executive session.
So how does one attend both meetings?
You split your stuff like I have been doing for the last couple of years.
It's a
State law. All municipal authorities and like townships have to have their first meeting on the same day every year. Like their first reorganization meeting has to be on the same night. And there's only so many hours in the evening to put them on, so
Do it that way
it
every
happens a
year.
lot. It's really
Usually last
unfortunate.
Every year we do it.
They were over there last year?
Yeah.
It's not my favorite.
They might have left before we did, who knows? Probably did. But anyway, that's what that's about. Now, I remember, any other questions on that? Information? No, it's just information.
Just a meeting, that's all.
We're just announcing there's gonna be an executive meeting. Okay? Item number C, small flow treatment plant letter. Ron, you wanna explain that?
So, we have a lot of agreements with the flow treatment plants that residents have in the community. A letter was drafted, it was supplied to you. Wanted to have an open meeting, discussion in an open meeting, so the residents kind of know there's a lot of requirements when they put a small flow treatment plant on their property. They have to have that inspected, and that inspection has to come back to the municipality each year. There's one out of probably 40 that we have. There's one resident that complies.
Now I get the gist of all that. What that is, like Ron's saying, there's several small flow treatment plants, I would say many, at least 20. All the trailer parks all have these small flow treatment plant facilities. A lot of the septic systems that are approved in the township anymore are these small flow treatment plants, which all require testing annually and records submitted to the township. And we're bringing that up to speed. There's a letter gonna go out to all these people that have these systems, and we need compliance. It's the law. We have escrow accounts that we've come up to support this, and these escrow accounts determine who has these systems. So we're just announcing that there's a letter going out.
And if there's questions from the residents that do have them, call, sit down and discuss the agreement that's there with the township, discuss the escrow account. I think these up from standards.
We have to have, probably Alexis even look into some of this. There should be deed requirements on this.
Yeah.
Because they transfer owners.
Yeah, I'm gonna look in, and if you guys authorize me to, maybe after this letter goes out, determine whether or not these can be recorded for the property so that they're in the chain of title and everybody's aware when they purchase a property that these requirements exist before they buy it.
Or if not on the deed, then our secretary needs to know when she's writing the letter, the closing costs.
Yeah.
She needs to know that there's an escrow account for that property.
Yeah, I'm thinking that sometimes, like for instance, like with an operation and maintenance agreement for stormwater management facilities, like you guys just did with the Dollar General, that's a privately owned facility, kind of like a sewage treatment plant is a privately owned facility.
Exactly what we're talking about.
And they take that agreement and they record it in their chain of title, so that, you know, when you go to buy a property, you like do your title search or whatever, and that pops up, and then everybody has to be on, well, then nobody can say they're not on notice because it would have been part of their package when they were buying the property. So
That's
that's
what
what
I
I'm thinking,
understand.
yeah.
It has to be part of the deed is the legal record. It affects the property, it has to be part of that.
Yeah, or at least a document of itself separate from the deed that you can
Kinda
record
makes
in that
sense.
chain.
Yeah.
And then the deed can refer to it, maybe even, but that's
Okay.
kind of, yeah, something better to keep track of so that.
We'll leave that to you, but that's,
Yeah.
something has to be
Yeah.
flagging that.
So with that letter, yes, instead of just referencing that it's a DEP requirement, I would suggest that we actually cite what requirement it is from DEP in there. Title, whatever, section, umpty squat, you know, put that in there.
We could go back to the
What's
agreement
their
that was made
agreements?
when they got the subdivision
Yeah,
and the approval to put that system in.
yeah.
The signatures.
But with that, that's just a
So
suggestion.
what I plan on doing
The letter.
is the letter that I drafted for you, is taking that letter and then also attaching their agreement they signed whenever they put that slow flow treatment plan in with the township, on what their responsibilities are.
Okay.
And then we gotta get our escrow accounts. I mean, there's.
So whose responsibility is it to keep this up to date? Meaning, do they have to report it to DEP, or they report it to us and then we report it to DEP? Or what, are we playing the middleman, we shouldn't be playing the middleman,
Most
or
of
what?
the agreement stated that they have to have it tested by DEP or another outsource, and that report has to be supplied to the township. We haven't been, there's one person that does that.
So what does the sewage enforcement officer do? Is this something that should be in his court to keep up to date with this stuff?
I'm not sure. That'd be a legal question at that point. All these agreements are in our folder there, and we're reading some of them, and we gotta get a policy moving forward, because I'm reading through this stuff, and some of them, the people don't even own that property anymore. It's changed hands. Do the new people understand what they have on their property? Was this disclosed in their deeds? I mean, there's a lot of mystery there on what is the legal portion of that.
The way I understand it, it comes down to a township thing. The requirement is that they have to submit their letter to the township, the test results to the township, which then would go to the manager. If the manager doesn't understand something, then he's got a sewage enforcement officer to clarify or to go inspect. That's what the escrow account is for. If we need to go test something that somebody's not testing, we can take money out of the escrow to go do it. It must comply, because they're allowed to put that system in.
See, I wasn't sure if we need to be pinging them that they're not in compliance, if that's something that we have to track, or if that's something that the sewage enforcement
No, we have to
officer
track.
needs to track
Goes to
as
the
part of his
manager.
duties.
Goes to the manager. Always comes back to the manager. Who's his township?
Right, but if they need to be put on notice that they're out of compliance, if that would come
Like
from.
who would send the notice of violation or
Right,
whatever, yeah.
who's tracking this stuff?
I would have to read the contracts to see what they, I haven't seen any of the contracts yet, but I would imagine that there's like some sort of like remedy or enforcement mechanism in the contract, to determine like what the enforcement mechanisms would be, or then to look at like your ordinances and see what they say about the small flow treatment facilities and how those would be enforced. It might be part of your code, but I would have to look into it. But sending out the letter first, like a warning letter, is always, an option.
Yeah.
We want to try to get compliance because they already should know they should comply.
Right.
But they've just not been doing it, so we need to create that file in that system. We maybe just like we're doing, just send a letter annually for compliance. Send them and we expect to resolve them. So that's what item C is. See if we can get compliance.
And then moving forward, we gotta come up with some standard way we approve these treatment plans, like a checklist. Hey, when you come in, you do this, an ordinance passed or a resolution is passed, it goes to the county to be recorded.
A new process.
Just to
It's not
oversimplify
formatted,
too.
or it's not,
These are chlorinated discharge systems usually.
Right.
They're depositing water from a septic system into a waterway. They're supposed to be chlorinated treated. And if they're not treated, then they're dumping septic into the waterway. and we can't have that. Exactly. That's why it's important that we do this.
But,
Okay.
They could do that.
Well, that's, they were approved, they're not supposed to be able to, but we don't know if they are. We don't know. We have no way of tracking. They agreed to put these systems in. We agreed to let them put these systems in. They agreed to give us an annual test, and they're not getting it.
So they could not be chlorinating.
They could not be chlorinating and dumping sewage right into our waterways, so we need to find out what's going on.
Can we make them say they're not?
Absolutely we can.
Yes, that's what we're doing.
That's what the escrow funds are for.
There's letters for it. You have to do
That's what the
this.
letter's for. That's what this is determined that this was not happening, and we're gonna make it happen.
And some of these systems are 40 years old or.
Yeah, I mean, you got these,
And they've got to be non-functioning as well as you did 40 years ago, so.
all these old trailer parks, they've got people that are running them and paid to manage them. It should be no big deal for them to take a sample and give us a result. If they're meeting.
Do they take the sample or do we take it?
They can take it. They take it to
Oh, a bona fide.
they take it to a bona fide lab, correct. And give us on letterhead the results of that test. That's how it works.
so it's just a discussion, so the community knows there's,
It has to happen.
there's a,
It was agreed upon when these people purchased those systems. So now we just have to get things in compliance so that the township knows what's going on.
so the way this all started was we got all these escrow accounts, we're trying to organize these escrow accounts, cause there's a lot of them, and they're at the credit union, so it's like, she gets these bank statements every month, different ones, every quarter, and it's like, okay, what are these for, why are we keeping these people's money, and what are we doing with it?
And somebody got their money back somewhere, didn't you say?
Some of them are not filed correctly.
This was all before me.
This is all we do.
So we've got a problem with trying
Yeah.
to get it corrected and
Trying to find out what,
and figure out the correct way that we're supposed to be doing this to the municipality to make it work, because it's not working smoothly.
so we're gonna send a letter and see what we get.
We're
We
gonna
can
send a letter.
attach the original agreements to
Yes.
the letter and send it out. I'd like to see a couple of the original agreements. I'd like
Yeah.
to see what's.
I'd love to show you some of the stuff that's going on. To try to sit here and explain it to you, it's very hard. So if you wanna come in and sit down and have a discussion, I'll let you look at some of the files. I mean, some of them are very old. And it's like, what has happened here?
Some are old, some are new, but we're not getting compliance anywhere, not even on new ones. So it needs to be enforced, it's a matter of sending a letter. Okay? You have questions or comments?
No, there were actually some people who wrote back and simply said, no, we're not doing this. We can't do that. I mean, why we let them get away with it then, I don't know, but you can't say, no, I'm not
When they
doing it.
wouldn't sign the agreement, okay, why did you permit them to do it?
Mhm.
Like, there's some weird stuff in the files. Stop over, I'll show you some.
So we gotta get a handle on it, gotta get some fairness in the system here, and, you know, gotta be proper. Okay, any other board comments? Guess I just have one. I wanna thank the staff for a year's worth of hard work.
Thank you.
Getting through some of this stuff like we're just talking about, discovering things that need attention and all the attention. I mean, we've had hearings, we've got a new housing plan, we've got all kind of issues here or there, but you guys really stepped up, and I appreciate all your efforts day to day. The police chief, you know, he's relatively new on the job, but he's doing a fine job over there too.
Thank you.
And, I can honestly say I have not had one bad comment about our police force.
You haven't talked to the right people.
I live a sheltered life. Okay. But I just want to say thank you, because you guys, day to day, you're the face of Sewickley Township, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, you wanna tell them about the two people that got hurt last week? I mean, just let you know what happens.
We did have two officers that were injured in the snowstorm. They
On
were
the state road,
on state roads.
Because we were working and PennDOT wasn't.
It's accurate. But they're doing well.
okay, any other comments? Motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you.